Hi guys, this is Arnav from the Tars marketing team. If this is your first time here, we help marketers increase their conversion rate using conversational landing pages, which is what you're seeing in this GIF over here. And in this video series, we are doing a series of landing page teardowns where we take a different landing page from a different industry each week, and we critique it in ways that could help it increase its conversion rate. And then we build a conversational landing page beforehand, which we show you guys, which addresses those issues. So for this week, the industry we're taking a look at is the co-working space industry. This is one that's pretty close to our hearts at Tars because as a company, we've primarily grown. We've primarily spent most of our time in co-working spaces, and we love the concept because it's great to work with a bunch of smart people from other companies who are building cool things. So anyways, for this video to find a landing page, what I did was I looked up co-working space downtown Los Angeles. I'm actually shooting this at night, so there are no ads popping up. But when I looked this up earlier today, there were a bunch of ads, and there should be a screenshot in the attached blog post. But nonetheless, we can look at a couple of stats about this keyword. As you can see, the CPC up here, it indicates my handy tool, keywords everywhere. You guys should try it. Indicates the CPC is about $57.47 on an average. And if you look at the right over here, it's a little bit less. It ranges from $10 to $40. But I guess Los Angeles might be a more competitive market, meaning there's a higher cost per click for Los Angeles related keywords. The other interesting thing to note about the co-working space industry is that it depends on scheduling tours. So unlike other lead generation processes where you just want to get an email and you want to get an email chain, these guys actually want to schedule a tour with prospects because we can attest to this. Reading about amenities is one thing, but seeing it in person is something completely different. Like you can read about craft beers or kombucha on tap, but if you actually have it in your hand while you're going on a tour of the co-working space, it just makes that co-working space seem that much more awesome. Anyways, on that note, this is the landing page that I found after clicking on an ad. It's actually pretty nice. I like a lot of aspects of it. There's not much text on the page, and the sentence gets cut off, so I have to scroll to actually read what else is there, which gets me invested in the page. The form, you'll notice, does not dominate the whole page. It's sort of slightly hidden, which I like because usually when I see a form prominently displayed on a page, my heart sinks. I don't like filling out forms, and a lot of people are like me, and it usually results in a low conversion rate, I found. So I'm happy that they have not included a form in the first fold prominently, and they use a picture carousel with genuine pictures. If you remember the LASIK teardown, they used some really artificial stock images, which I did not like. And this sort of addresses that issue. These seem to be actual pictures from the co-working space, which I do like. The main issue I have with this page is what it looks like on mobile. So if I switch over to the mobile view over here, you'll notice that a lot of the advantages I talked about are actually not there. The text takes up a much greater proportion of the page, and the images take up a much smaller proportion of the page. And this makes for a more information-heavy, text-rich user experience, which really nullifies any of the advantages I was talking about earlier. The more text you have on the page, the more text-heavy a page is, the more cramped it is, like this mobile landing page is, the higher the chance of prospect dropping because people just don't like reading text. They don't like seeing large blocks of text. And over here, clearly, the text takes a greater proportion of the page than it did in the desktop version. And this is actually an issue which conversation landing pages address. So we made this conversation landing page out of the information on the traditional landing page. So actually this is the focus of my video today. The thing about conversational landing pages is that they use a chat interface, which is extremely unique as far as an interface goes. Most websites, most landing pages are built for the desktop first, laptop first, and then they are optimized. They're ported down for a mobile screen or a mobile screen size. With a conversational landing page, on the other hand, they use a chat interface, which, as you probably know, is made primarily for a mobile screen first. So like the chat interfaces that we're used to today with the message bubbles and the input bar started out with WhatsApp. Like back in the day, when WhatsApp was a Nokia. I remember I had a Nokia smartphone, and what I thought was made it smart was the fact that it had WhatsApp on it. And the WhatsApp interface that was there, it looked slightly different, but the message bubbles, the input bar was pretty much the same as what we have today on WhatsApp. And that's just sort of testament to the fact that this interface is optimized for mobile users. The minimalism of just having a few message bubbles in the first screen or at any stage of the conversation is it sort of addresses the issue of text taking up a large proportion of the page, and also just the fact that the input bar is the bottom where someone's thumb would normally be. Just shows that this sort of interface was made with the mobile user in mind first, and it sort of addresses the issue of a bad mode of landing pages like this here having a good desktop experience but a bad mobile experience. So I'm just going to go ahead and actually fill out this lead generation flow just to give you guys a sense of what it looks like. So it's just asking me some basic details. As I mentioned last time, ask for the details which are important to the prospect first. So team size, when they want to schedule it, and then ask for the contact information. But actually the best practice I want to discuss today, the conversational landing page building best practice that I want to discuss today, has to do with non-text elements. So you'll notice over here that I included a lot of emojis in the flow. And also if I refresh the page, you will notice that I use icons in the actual buttons that show up in the first gambit, the first question. So there's a calendar and there's the information. So let's just click on I want more info. It should show up some more buttons with icons as well. And this is intentional, and we recommend it to everyone. It might seem like a minor addition to the conversational flow, but we actually think that this is significant. We recommend everyone does this. Even if you have a minimalist conversational landing page where there's not much text on the page and the text takes up very little of the actual page, text can get monotonous, and people like looking at images, even if it's a small icon or even if it is an emoji. So we usually recommend to our creators, to the businesses who work with us, that they break the monotony of the text up with things like emojis, with things like icons, because it makes the reading process a lot quicker. It makes it a lot more enjoyable. We even recommend GIFs. We're huge believers in GIFs if you read our newsletters. And over here, you can see there are two pretty lengthy message bubbles. And I've to sort of address the monotony of reading that, I added a GIF to make it a more enjoyable experience. And this has a second advantage, which is definitely worth noting, which is that when we look at a page, when we have visual elements like this, our brains process it much quicker than they would reading the actual text. So this serves as sort of like a mental shortcut. So for example, I could see a calendar over here, and that would make it easier for me to figure out that this button would help me schedule a tour. Or for example, if I was speed reading the amenities over here, I'd know that beer on tap or kombucha on tap is an amenity just by looking at the GIF, even if I skimmed through this message over here. And that sort of ensures that people are reading more of the content you get them. They're getting more of the information you want to convey. And that in turn increases the chance of them converting into an actual lead. So to recap real quick, everything that we've discussed, that's the best practice for today. But to recap real quick, this landing page was great, but its mobile experience was not, because the text took up way too much of the page. Over here, the text is not taking up that much of the page in the desktop experience, but when we switch to mobile, the text takes up a greater proportion of the page, the image becomes smaller. Conversational landing page, because it's a chat interface optimized for mobile users, the text doesn't take that much of the page up, because it's structured as a chat where the messages are restricted to one part of the screen and the input buttons are at the bottom where the thumb is. So it sort of uses an interface that is inherently mobile optimized. So it doesn't run into the issue traditional landing page does when moving over from a desktop version to a mobile version. And to quickly recap the best practice, which I just mentioned, even in a conversational landing page, even though there's less text, break up the monotony of text with non-text elements like emojis, like icons, like GIFs, just to make the reading experience a lot more enjoyable. Again, break up the monotony and to give people a mental shortcut to read the messages quicker. And the end result of incorporating all of these, of using a conversational landing page, of adding non-text elements, is that your conversion rate increases. So we've actually worked with a client in the co-working space industry, and they saw a 155% increase in their conversion rate when they switched from a traditional landing page, this one, to a conversational like this one. So that's just hard facts right there. That's pretty much it for today. We'll look at another industry next week. As always, give us feedback and your landing pages in the comments, and we'll do a teardown of them. Thanks.